Szass Tam is a prominent figure in the Dungeons & Dragons universe of the Forgotten Realms. He is a formidable and ambitious character known for his pursuit of power and mastery of the necromantic arts. From the nation of Thay, he would rise to prominence as a powerful red wizard and eventual lich attempting to obtain godhood itself. Let us journey together and uncover the story of Szass Tam. In the year of the Dark Dawn, 1104 Dale Reckoning, or DR for short, amidst a world shrouded in shadows and uncertainty, a figure named Szass Tam was born. Little did anyone know at the time that this seemingly ordinary child would grow to become one of the most feared and enigmatic beings in all of Faerun. In his youth, Szass Tam treaded a path of secrecy, assuming the identity of Tarloth Narmander. Under this guise, he would sponsor adventuring companies, enticing them with promises of wealth and glory, with their task being to procure enchanted items. Yet these bands of adventurers were unknowing pawns in Szass Tam's grand design, for once their quest was complete and their amassed magic deemed sufficient, they met a grim fate at the hands of the future Lich. No loose ends were allowed to remain, no knowledge of his true intentions preserved. It was during this time that Szass Tam acquired his most prized possession, a polished crystal ball that had once belonged to his slain mentor. This enchanted relic, several centuries old, held within it a wellspring of power and knowledge. His mentor's demise, orchestrated by the hands of Tam himself, had provided him with a vast array of arcane devices, elixirs, and books enhancing his already formidable arcane abilities. He would reanimate his former mentor's corpse as a constant reminder within his lair, a skeletal sentinel guarding the Citadel's corridors, forever loyal to his former student. In the year of the Wizened Mage, 1157 DR, the stage was set for Szass Tam's ascension. Leading a group of red wizards, he embarked on a treacherous mission to vanquish the vampire Nyresaflas, the reigning Zolkir of necromancy. Through cunning tactics and ruthless determination, Szass Tam emerged victorious, and the coveted title of Zolkir of necromancy was bestowed upon him, solidifying his authority over the darkest arts. And to briefly explain the meaning of that title, the Zolkirs stood as the pillars of authority within Thay. Within the council, there existed 8 Zolkirs, each appointed to oversee a specific school of magic. These masters of their respective schools of magic comprised the Council of Zolkirs, an assembly of power that held dominion over the Red Wizards, and by extension, the very fate of Thay itself. And so the story of Szass Tam continued to unfold. His lust for power, his dark ambitions, and his mastery over life and death had set him on a path that would forever shape the realms. As the curtain fell on this chapter, the future beckoned, promising new trials and conquests for the would-be undead ruler. During the year of the Cloven Stones, 1159 DR, an event of great significance unfolded. Szass Tam, the formidable Zolkir of necromancy, led a bold invasion into the mystical lands of Rashamin. Battling ferociously on the front lines of his army, the Zolkir sustained grievous wounds, and his life force began ebbing away. Yet he was not destined to meet his demise on that fateful day. Instead, the potent forces that coursed through his veins, a testament to his mastery over the necromantic arts, he underwent a profound transformation. Death's cold embrace beckoned, and Szass Tam emerged from its clutches as something far more sinister. A lich, an immortal being of undying power. In the year of Embers 1201 DR, the stage was set for a grand spectacle, a collaboration of dark ambitions that would shake the realms. Szass Tam, now joined by the newly elected Zolkir of Invocation, Narvana Kryn, and the Zolkir of Illusion, Nymor Thrall, concocted a plan of conquest aimed at the nation of Aglarond. Their strategy involved a feint attack on the formidable Watch Wall, masterfully orchestrated by Tam's relentless hordes of undead. This diversion was meant to draw the attention of the defenders, allowing the other 2 Zolkirs to flank the enemy through the treacherous forest of Urawood. Initially, victory seemed within their grasp, as Szass Tam's forces executed their part of the plan with ruthless precision. Yet the mortal troops under the command of Narvana and Nymor proved to be a disruptive force. their minds clouded by greed and a thirst for personal gain. The intricately woven tapestry of their strategy quickly unraveled as chaos ensued on the battlefield. The element of surprise was lost, and the invasion crumbled beneath the weight of disarray and self-interest. Blaming Nymor Thrall for the costly failure, the enraged Szass Tam confronted the Zolkir of Illusion. Their heated exchange of words transformed into deadly spellfire, and the suffocating grip of death claimed Nymor as Szass Tam's wrath unfolded upon him. In the late 12th or early 13th century DR, an unlikely alliance emerged, uniting Szass Tam with the corrupt and ambitious Harper Rundoral Moonsclan. Their sinister pact sought to manipulate the intricate web of power in the north to their advantage. As Rundoral yearned to exert his influence over every throne, Tam aimed to dismantle his rivals within Thay. A dark arrangement was struck. Szass would provide Rundoral with vital information on his Thayan adversaries, while the Harper sent his brethren to claim victories over these designated targets. To justify their focus on Thay, Rundoral disseminated a tale of terror, the dreaded spell of undeath. Whispered rumors spoke of the Red Wizards developing a malevolent incantation capable of transforming entire cities into undead minions, a threat poised to enslave all of Faerun. The plan unfolded seamlessly, as the Harpers, misled by Rundoral's machinations, launched relentless assaults against the Red Wizards and even the Zolkirs themselves. Lives were lost, both Thayan and Harper, while Szass Tam and Rundoral basked in the spoils of their dark alliance. However, beneath the surface of this unholy union, tensions simmered. Rundoral, sensing betrayal in the air, would sever ties with Szass Tam, seeking solace in an even darker pact with the Lich Thaverdaz. The malevolent Lich usurped control over Szass Tam's undead Harper forces, and clashed with the Cult of the Dragon in a catastrophic conflict. Patiently awaiting his moment of retribution, Szass Tam bided his time until the Cult of the Dragon found themselves at the precipice of victory, their sights set upon Thaverdaz's lair in the treacherous vast swamp. In the Year of the Horn, 1222 DR, the stage was set for a cataclysmic clash. Szass Tam, driven by an insatiable thirst for vengeance, struck with calculated precision, catching Thaverdaz off guard within the confines of his own lair. The two Liches engaged in a titanic struggle, their spells colliding in a brilliant display of arcane fireworks. Szass Tam, ever the cunning strategist, employed a mesmerizing ruse, projecting an illusion of himself into the heat of battle. From the safety of Thay, he manipulated this spectral manifestation, directing its destructive power toward his foe's lair. Yet Thaverdaz's defenses were formidable, redirecting Tam's onslaught against the unsuspecting Harpers and Dragon cultists. A stalemate ensued, neither Lich able to inflict a decisive blow upon the other. It was only when Thaverdaz unleashed a potent magical artifact that the tide turned against Szass Tam. The devastating energy rippled across the realm, shattering Zass's image and leaving the Zolkir of Necromancy himself incapacitated and robbed of his senses for many long years. But in a cruel twist of fate, Elminster himself intervened, dismantling Thaverdaz at the pinnacle of his apparent triumph. However, true to his nature, Szass Tam's story was far from over. Unyielding in his pursuit of absolute power, he delved deeper into the abyss of forbidden knowledge. It was within this dark domain that he acquired or devised the chilling incantation known as Beckoning Death, a spell that would send shivers down the spines of even the bravest of souls, for it promised a fate worse than death itself. In the Year of the Dragon, 1352 DR, Szass Tam created the Animate Dread Warrior spell, and with this malevolent incantation, he began amassing an army of the undead, a force that would become his instrument of conquest. But Tam's rise to power was not a solitary endeavor. Alongside 3 other Red Wizards, he devised a plot to overthrow the governments of the cities on the Sea of Fallen Stars. Summoning an army from the elemental plane of fire consisting of Ifritis and salamanders, the Zolkir promised the elemental creatures a permanent magical gate to their home plane as payment. This of course was a deception, and when the truth was revealed, chaos erupted. The Red Wizards failed to banish the salamanders, leading a prolonged conflict known as the Salamander War in the year of the Prince 1357 DR. Szass Tam's undead forces were sent to aid his comrades against the fiery onslaught, but the war raged on for nearly a year. But a war on one front wouldn't occupy all of Szass Tam's attention, as during the same year he forged an alliance with two Tharkians, and launched an invasion into Rashomon with his fearsome army of dread warriors known as Mirkul's Legion, named of course after Mirkul, the patron god of the dead himself. But as fate would have it, this invasion would end in failure, further fueling Szass Tam's thirst for power. In the Year of the Serpent, 1359 DR, the Dragon Wall, a formidable barrier that protected the lands from the rampaging Tuagan horde, was breached. Tam and his fellow Red Wizards seized this opportunity and approached the leaders of the Grand Army of the Tuagan, Yamun Kahan and General Kanar. With a display of Thayan power, Szass Tam transported the Tuagan leaders to a meeting, leaving them with no choice but to listen. Through masterful spell weaving, Szass showed them potent visions, a vision that showed the devastating clash between the Tuagan horde and the Thayan forces, convincingly portraying the Tuagan's defeat. Desiring to avoid this conflict, the Tuagans would form an alliance with the Thayans. With the Tuagans redirected towards Rashomon, Szass Tam and his forces joined the assault, launching a dual-pronged attack. The Grand Army of the Tuagan ravished Rashomon, and Szass Tam used magic to part the Lake of Tears, granting passage for the Horde. But their westward advance would be ultimately halted by a united army led by King Azun Arbaskar IV. In the Year of the Helm, 1362 DR, Tam faced another formidable opponent, his former apprentice, Frodine. Seeking to claim a powerful artifact, the Crown of Lyra, the goddess of deception and illusion, from a temple in Delhumide, Frodine would defy her former master's claim to the treasure. Szass Tam arrived at the scene only to discover that Frodine had descended into the temple's treacherous vaults before him. Unbeknownst to both of them, the crown was a trap laid by the goddess Lyra herself, intended to punish any undead who dared disrespect her divine stature. As punishment for her insolence, Szass allowed Frodine to be captured by the temple's monstrous guardian, enduring an eternity of torment and death time and time again. In the ever-shifting landscape of Thay, Tam's influence continued to grow, and he soon found himself locked in a bitter rivalry with the Zolkir of illusion, Malagor. Seeking to outmaneuver his rival, Malagor orchestrated an elaborate plan that involved the manipulation of the Thayan gold mines. However, this scheme was thwarted by the combined efforts of Szass Tam's unwilling allies, the Harper agent Galvin, the politician from Aglaron de Brenna Greycloak, and the Centaur Winter, who uncovered Malagor's true intentions. As a result, Szass Tam's undead army, who he placed in the Harper's command, clashed with Malagor's forces, resulting in the collapsing of the gold mines, with Malagor seemingly still inside when it happened. And in a turn of events, the Harpers would intentionally decimate Szass Tam's undead army, marking themselves as an enemy of the Lich. In the Year of the Shield 1367 DR, Szass Tam would manipulate another group of adventurers into unwittingly delivering plans for a Thayan invasion of Rashomon. Sending an anonymous warning to the Symbol, the ruler of Aglarond, he ensured that the plans fell into her hands. The adventurers, falsely accused as Thayan agents, were given a chance to prove their innocence and aid in the defense of Rashomon. This ploy allowed Szass Tam to discredit his main opponents among the Zolkirs and gain support from some of them as well, namely Mithrelin, thereby solidifying his position as a major power in the Thayan government. Szass Tam's insidious machinations were not limited to political games, however. In a bid for ultimate power, he devised a plan to unleash the demon lord Eltab from his ancient prison beneath Thaymount. Utilizing two powerful artifacts, the Death Moon Orb and Thackersil's Seat, he sought to bind the demon lord to his will through a dark ritual known as the Ritual of Twin Burnings. With 8 of the 9 runes of chaos inscribed upon Thackersil's Seat, he shielded Thaymount from the prying eyes of the symbol. Each rune required the sacrifice of a powerful mage of noble intent. And for the final rune, Tam captured a Harper ally named Azargatha Nimyun. However, before his nefarious plan could unfold, the symbol was informed of his intentions by his former ally Nathor. Assembling a group of brave adventurers, the symbol sent them on a perilous mission to infiltrate Szass Tam's citadel, navigate the treacherous paths of the Doom, and thwart his ascent to ultimate power. In a climactic battle, Eltab slipped from Szass Tam's grasp and sought refuge within the demon cyst beneath Thaymount, exploiting a tiny flaw in the Lich's spell. Undeterred by setbacks, Szass Tam pressed on, launching yet another attack on Aglarond in the winter of the Year of the Gauntlet 1369 DR. His relentless undead army marched across the Umber Marshes, and wave after wave of the undead would crash against the mighty watchwall. Ultimately, the wall would hold, and the waves of undead would be unsuccessful in breaching it. And so the saga of Szass Tam, the Zolkir of Necromancy, continued to unfold, as his insatiable hunger for power drove him to orchestrate grand schemes and face formidable adversaries. In the ever-shifting landscape of Faerun, his dark presence cast a long and ominous shadow, forever altering the fates of those who crossed his path. In the annals of history, a tale unfolds, woven with treachery and bloodshed, as Zinc Yendar would recount in hushed whispers that it was in the mid-1370s DR when the land of Thay, under the rule of the cunning Szass Tam, was swept into a vortex of deception and dark magic. Szass Tam orchestrated a grand celebration, inviting all of the Zolkir and the people of Thaymount, including Zinc and his parents, gathering atop the ancient citadel, unaware of the impending doom that awaited them. Some carried symbols of the sun, a symbol of hope and warmth, but little did they know that their trust was misplaced, for Szass Tam's intentions were as sinister as they had ever been. In a calculated moment, the malevolent Szass Tam interrupted Zolkir Demetra Flass, who was addressing the crowd with her words of unity and strength. And from beneath his robes he produced a sinister red horn, a harbinger of undeath itself. With the vile incantation known as the Beckoning Death, Tam unleashed a miasma of red smoke, turning any in its grasp into a mindless undead under his control. Panic and chaos ensued as those who sought to flee were mercilessly cut down by the Red Wizards who had pledged their allegiance to Szass Tam. But this was just the beginning of Szass Tam's machinations. In the Year of the Risen Elfkin, 1375 DR, he orchestrated a series of calculated murders. Zolkir's Druxus Ryam and Asnar Thrall fell victim to his treachery, and a Thayan army led by Tharkians was betrayed to the Rashimi forces. Fear and uncertainty spread like wildfire among the Thayan population, with Szass Tam ensuring that the investigation into these heinous acts were hindered and solved by his own hand. Under the guise of a savior, Szass Tam sought to position himself as the sole ruler of Thay. He painted a picture of himself as the only one capable of dealing with these problems, manipulating the nobles, legions, and common people with his persuasive rhetoric. When Zolkir Demetra Flass rallied other Zolkirs who remained loyal to their cause, Szass Tam's aspirations were challenged. Refusing to yield, he declared war on all those who opposed him. By the Year of the Haunting, 1377 DR, Szass Tam had entrenched himself in the citadel at Thaymount, ruthlessly evicting his enemies from their estates on the plateau. Some Zolkir, swayed by his power and promises, switched sides, becoming his reluctant allies. Among them was the diviner Yaffle, whose loyalties wavered in the face of an undead nation under Szass Tam's tyrannical rule. Yaffle's conscience would not allow her to be complicit in the creation of a nation of the undead. She made the fateful decision to switch sides once again, aligning herself with the Council of Zolkirs who opposed Szass Tam's reign. The repercussions of her actions were severe. In the year of Blue Fire, 1385 DR, Tam captured Yaffle, binding her with powerful artifacts of domination, the Death Moon Orb and Thakor-Sil's Seat. He demanded that she use her formidable divination powers to provide him with the means to secure a decisive victory over the other Zolkirs. Yaffle, compelled by his control, performed the task, telling him to set a trap at the Keep of Sorrows. Yet in her final act of defiance, she left him with a cryptic vision. As the vision faded and Yaffle pulled herself from the Lich's mental grasp, she found herself surrounded by a swirling blue flame, a harbinger of the cataclysmic event known as the Spell Plague. But while trying to regain control of the diviner, Tam would kill her with his poisonous touch. But driven by his insatiable thirst for power, Szass Tam pressed forward, relying on the information extracted from Yaffle's divination. The confrontation at the Keep of Sorrows unfolded, and with the aid of the Death Moon Orb, he sought to coerce his former ally, Demetra Flass, into joining his side. But fate would have other plans. In a cataclysmic surge of arcane energy, the Spell Plague struck. The Death Moon Orb shattered in Szass Tam's hands, releasing Demetra from its malevolent grip. Azure flames engulfed the Lich, rendering his magic useless and stripping away the illusory flesh that veiled his skeletal visage. Desperate and disfigured, Szass Tam retreated from the battlefield, aided by his Atropal ally Zingax. To unravel the mysteries of magic during the tumultuous era of the Spell Plague, Szass Tam invoked a dangerous ritual. He summoned Bane, the Lord of Tyranny, by sacrificing the enthralled Tharkian Pyrrhus Autorhinal. In a twisted pact, Bane agreed to share his knowledge of the chaotic magic with him, granting him the power to raise more dead and augment the Lich's already formidable abilities. In return, Szass Tam pledged to surrender his soul to Bane after 1,000 years had passed, once his conquest of Thay was complete. Aware that the granted strength would wane over time, Szass Tam wasted no time in exploiting it to its fullest extent. During another clash at the Keep of Sorrows, he called upon a dream vestige to turn the tide in his favor. He succeeded in beating the legions of the Zolkirs, chasing them all the way to Bezentur. His undead legions and loyal priests of Bane further forced the Zolkirs to leave the town aboard vessels. He summoned the bodies of drowned men and undead aquatic beasts for a final and lethal victory over the Zolkirs. Accompanied by a fleet of warships made from darkness, he followed the fleeing Zolkirs, entangling them in marine warfare. His enemies and the Zolkir of Conjuration, Nevron's conjured denizens of the infernal oceans, proved quite adept at sea fighting and successfully beat back Tam's undead minions. Szass Tam conjured the dream vestige again, finally exhausting his magical powers bestowed by Bane. When Barris defeated the dream vestige and the Zolkir forces beat Szass Tam's minions, the Lich and Malark Springhill withdrew to the Thaymount, the Lich being content with his conquered lands. Szass Tam revealed to Malark that he had obtained a book once possessed by Vastrin the Delver, a book that undoubtedly held secrets with the potential to alter the course of Thay's history. And so, with dark triumph in his heart, Szass Tam began to decipher the ancient knowledge contained within the pages of that coveted tome. In the Year of Silent Thunder, 1432 DR, Thay languished under the iron grip of Szass Tam. The Lich Regent, his insatiable hunger for power unquenched, set his sights on Yemek, a fortress nestled within the despised nation of Aglarond. With swift precision, he unleashed his forces upon the unsuspecting lands. The initial assault saw the undead pouring forth from the treacherous Shivar Pass, while red wizards conjured nightmarish creatures to sow chaos amidst the Aglondaran troops. Szass Tam's living soldiers advanced, marching alongside formidable golems, yet their progress was halted before they could reach the Tanath Mountains. This setback, however, was part of the Thayan strategist's calculated plan. While the defenders grappled with the relentless assault, a small strike force infiltrated Emek and disabled the fortress's defensive magic and wards, leaving it vulnerable to the teleportation spells wielded by the Red Wizards. In droves, these dark wizards materialized within Emek's walls, supported by hundreds of lesser Red Wizards. The ensuing battle raged through the streets for a month, a maelstrom of bloodshed and destruction. Undead soldiers ferried down the River Umber from Nethentir and Nethjet, clashed with both Aglarondan troops and innocent civilians. Thay's ruthless conquest showed no mercy, extinguishing all life in its path. However, the victory came at a steep cost. The lives of several thousand living Thayan soldiers and tens of thousands of undead were sacrificed in the conflict. The heavy toll dampened Szass Tam's ambitions for decades, forcing him to divert his attention to rebuilding his decimated forces. The lean years of a weakened Thay that followed saw the living Thayans waning respect for Szass Tam as a leader, leaving fear as the sole thread keeping them in line. To oversee the transformation of his newly conquered fortress of Emek, Szass Tam appointed his loyal apprentice, Governor Undamora. Under her stewardship, Emek flourished as a formidable Thayan stronghold, guarded by a substantial garrison of undead forces. However, in the spring of the Year of the Mages in Amber 1466 DR, Undamora met her demise. A guerrilla spell attack launched by the Simbar Council of Aglaron disintegrated her, disrupting any offensive plans Thay may have harbored against its neighboring nation. Szass Tam seethed with fury at the loss, and in honor of Undamora, the keep was renamed Undamore. In the Year of the Dark Circle 1478 DR, as the unchallenged ruler of Thay, Szass Tam attempted to ascend to godhood, seeking to unravel the fabric of reality itself through the destructive power of the Dread Rings. Although the initial attempt failed, resulting in the deaths of several Zolkirs who aided him and the intervention of a group of heroes, Szass Tam remained resolute in his pursuit. The expansion of Thay's borders became a means to an end, as the Dread Rings of Thay, now rendered unusable, presented a daunting obstacle to his ambitions. By the late 15th century DR, Tam had successfully restored the Zolkirate, elevating powerful arcanists loyal to his cause. Tharkians and Autarchs governed the territories under his control, while the main force of Thay became known as the Dread Legions. The formidable army consisted of undead creatures, orcs, gnolls, and a myriad of other monstrous beings, serving primarily as Thay's defensive strength. In the Year of the Ageless One, 1479 DR, Thayan agent Valindra Shadowmantle oversaw the construction of a new Dread Ring deep within Neverwinter Wood. However, the devastation wrought upon Neverwinter disrupted the completion of the ring, leaving it as a haunting testament to their ambitions. During this time, the Harpers managed to acquire or steal Szass Tam's Red Horn, a potent artifact that held great significance to the Lich. Knowing the importance of keeping it out of his reach, they safeguarded it within the impenetrable vault of Corrin's Keep. To continue the story of Szass Tam and his shadowy agenda, you can watch the new Dungeons & Dragons movie Honor Among Thieves, and although he's a background antagonist throughout the movie, his plots and schemes are very much the focus of the film.